There'll be no more running around for me, no more going down to see whatever life's in store for me. I started making music as a street musician, singing Dylan songs and singing Leonard Cohen songs or Van Morrison songs. And then I discovered new music. During that time, someone gave me a tape of R.E.M. Reckoning, and I remember listening to it and being so blown away at this music, this new music, this music I'd never heard before. And then someone gave me a tape, and the Pixies was on the tape, and I was like, what is this music? It's so interesting and fascinating, and I wanted to form a band immediately, and the Waterboys and all of these bands that suddenly came into my life, which was at the time very modern music. This is like 85, 86, 87, 88. And I became obsessed with the idea of making music with a band. I got signed to Island Records when I was 18 by Chris Blackwell, who was the managing director there. I immediately set about making a rock record instead of a folk record, which would have been the most natural thing for me to do. Made that record. It was a disastrous experience. Experienced my first great loss, which was to be dropped by a record label. And back in those days, that was a kind of a major mortal wound for a band. And then we kept at it. We made another record called Fitzcarraldo. We kept at it. We built our career really on playing live. That was really the one part of our career that was fruitful, was that whenever we played live, a few people brought their friends. And next time. And so the Frames got into touring almost continuously. And then somewhere about 17 years into that experience, my friend John Carney said, I have this film that I'd like to make about a street musician, which was loosely based on my own past. And he asked me would I write the songs for it. I agreed. Then the actor he was going to use didn't show up, ended up pulling out, and then I ended up playing the role of this guy, which was loosely based on myself, which was kind of strange. And then that had its own life, that had its own trajectory, and then once became this thing where the film got picked up by film festivals. And initially we sent the film to places like Sundance, and they rejected it, and then a guy from Sundance was in Ireland on holiday, and he happened to see the film in a small theatre in the west of Ireland, and he said, I really like this film, can I take it to Sundance? And we said, yes, absolutely. And so we ended up getting back into Sundance somehow, and then we won the Audience Award, and then everything went from there. And so that this film, which took 3 weeks to make, cost €120,000 to make, ended up going as far as the Oscars, and that all of that madness and beauty that happened and was wonderful. And then the swell season was the band with myself and Marketa and the Frames, and then that came to a natural end, because as all the relationships do, they go through their ups and downs, and that went through a down and never recovered. And so it felt natural for me to then make a record under my own name. It felt like a natural progression, which I did, and I toured with the guys from the Frames as the band. And maybe there was thoughts of me doing another Frames record, but I felt that these songs I was writing needed to come out under my own name. I felt that was what they needed to do. So now I've made my second solo record, and it feels more like the beginning of my career now, almost like I've gone right back to the start. And in many ways, I think turning 40 is a big thing for a person, because it's almost like you hit you hit a kind of a middle place in your life, and you realize, I've probably got 30 good years left in me. What am I going to do at this time? And it's almost like you have to cut all the bullshit and get rid of everything that is not serving your idea of your life, and get to it. And so I'm on my second record, and it feels like my second record that I've ever made in a funny kind of way. And in another way, I've got all this experience that I can draw on, so I'm very pleased with it. So that's kind of a very brief history of my musical career thus far.
There'll be no more going half the way. I was strong, my back is straight.
Yeah, I guess it is. And it has been a difficult record for me. I don't know how it's going to be received. That's out of my hands. But it was a tough one to write. It was a tough one to get to the heart of what the songs were. I found myself on this record writing and rewriting and writing verses and throwing them out, writing new verses and throwing them out, and trying to find the core of the songs. It's almost as if I feel like it's almost like I treated this record, each song was almost like a piece of furniture. I was trying to get it so that when you sat on it, it didn't rock, or that it had a solidity. And once I was happy that each song felt solid, I was happy to move on to the next. So it took me more time. I feel like if ever I used my craft muscle, it was on this one. Because before, I was more satisfied to have an idea and then to not play with it too much, to let the idea be the thing. Whereas now, I feel like the idea is it's half, maybe 1/3 of what ends up being the song. So I think a good song, I think if you're going to build the structure of it properly, it deserves that you take it apart and look at what the lyric is.
Some grace beneath the judge's gavel, grace among my brothers on the fire line.
I think something that people don't do enough with records is they don't listen to the whole album. Artists, I mean. They make the record and then they're kind of happy to throw it into some kind of sequence and then throw it out. But actually every aspect of the creation, every aspect of the creative process, whether it be the individual song, the individual verses in the songs, the individual lines, the chord structures, then the artwork, the lyrics, how the lyrics are formatted, and then the sequencing of the record, and then maybe some videos, and the creative process is quite, there's a lot to think about. But I think if you take time and you're meticulous about every aspect, particularly the running order, because, I don't know how many people, I honestly don't know how many people listen to albums now through. I'd like to think that people still do, but I can't. I know I do. I listen to records and I like how they arc. I like the way the album kind of starts and finishes. And so I gave a lot of thought to that, and I changed the track listing a few times, and even recently, the last couple of weeks, I changed it again. And so thankfully, I've just signed off on the last version, but I feel like it's the strongest. So in a way, it's a bit like organizing the room. Yeah, it's a bit like being a bit obsessive compulsive and making sure everything is ordered correctly. I mean, if you take every cup and bottle on that table, and you figure that's how they were naturally left by every journalist that's been here today, and then you think about maybe that's the perfect order for them because that's how they were left. But then you might decide you want to order them slightly differently. But it looks pretty perfect actually.
Let's travel, race beneath the flags, race beneath. To be honest, I haven't thought about it since it happened, and it really is such a huge endorsement to be made fun of by the Simpsons. And someone in their office, I think Matt, liked once he saw it and he thought, let's make fun of this. And nobody knew the film. And we were like, really? You're going to make fun of a film that people don't know about? He says, well, we just make fun of things all the time and people don't know. So apparently they're making in-jokes all the way through that is a salute to certain different things that they're all enjoying. But it was an experience. We were in Tucson, Arizona. We were playing the Rialto Theatre, and we got a call saying, can you make it to LA tomorrow morning? We've had an idea that we'd like to parody your film. And we were just knocked out. We jumped on a flight that night and we got to LA, and we went in, we met all the cast, we sat around, we read through the script of that episode, and everybody was, okay, is everybody happy? It's so strange to see all these faces, and then the voice that comes out is so different to like Homer is like the skinny guy, little baseball cap, and you'd never imagine that it was him, but then you close your eyes and you're actually in a room with the Simpsons cast. It's very bizarre. We went in and we recorded a few lines of dialogue, and they showed us basically what our characters would look like, and it was really so funny. And then we left and we went back on tour, and maybe 6 months later it came on the TV, and it was a trip. It's probably the most abstract thing that's happened in my life.
I think
Twitter.
You don't like it?
Twitter. Never got it.
You know what I think is amazing is Kanye West. A few bands and musicians.
Winter was not really cold. I was expecting bad weather.
Yeah.
Yeah, but good weather come with me. So